friends, hope all of you are fine and doing very well. In this video, it is basically a requested video. In my previous video, I talked about the features of British Romantic poetry and the basic influences of German Romanticism. Now, in this video, as I have already mentioned, it is a requested video. Shampriti, one of my old students, she requested me to make a video on Lucy poems by William Wordsworth. So the focus on the video is solely on the Lucy poems composed by William Wordsworth. See, often in the discussion of history of literature, we refer William Wordsworth as the proponent of romantic movement in British literature, romantic theories invented by Wordsworth. All these things have been highlighted enough. But whenever we are mentioning Lucy poems, sometimes we make just a passing reference to these Lucy poems. But we need a detailed discussion and interpretation where we will be able to look into the details of historical facts and major happenings and the interesting historical factors related to the composition of Lucy poems by William Wordsworth. So this video is an attempt to unravel all those interesting factors about Lucy poems. So let's begin this video. See, Lucy poems, basically, what is Lucy poems? If you ask me, the simple answer is 5 poems composed by William Wordsworth. This group of 5 poems is known as Lucy poems. Significantly, Lucy poems are composed by William Wordsworth, though the naming has not been done by the poet. After his death in 1850, the critics and the readers, noticing the thematic commonalities between these 2 poems and later on 3 other poems, they have given the name Lucy poems. Basically, by the name Lucy poems, we mean 5 individual write-ups. Okay, so 5 poems, basically there are 5 different write-ups in the form of the ballad meter and ballad form. These 5 poems are known as Lucy poems. These 5 poems are Strange Feats of Passion Have I Known. This is the number 1. Number 2 is She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways. Number 3 is I Travelled Among Unknown Men. Number 4 is 3 years she grew in sun and shower. And 5th and the penultimate poem of the group is A Slumber Did My Spirit Seal. Interestingly, as I have already mentioned, the name Lucy poems has not been given by Wordsworth. He mentioned them as experimental poetic pieces in both the prefaces of lyrical ballads. First appeared in 1798 and in the second preface to lyrical ballads, which published in the year 1800. So in both the prefaces of the lyrical ballads, Wordsworth mentioned that these 5 poems are experimental by nature, and he never ever mentioned any name, any group relating to these 5 write-ups. Historical records have established the fact that Wordsworth made significant changes and alterations in these 5 poems between the year 1798 and 1799. Only after his death, that is the year 1850, critics and the readers, they came to be regarded this group of poems as Lucy poems, right? So these Lucy poems, why this naming, why it is important, it is very interesting to look at. Now, the exact year of composition of the Lucy group of poems are basically unknown, but from historical records, we got to know that between the year 1798 and 1801, the poet has penned these poems during his stay in Germany. Why they are called Lucy poems? The somber elegiac tone of Lucy's death hovers over the poems. So the readers and the critics have christened these poems as Lucy poems. Now the question comes, who is Lucy? The entity of Lucy is very much enigmatic. Many critics, they ascribe that Lucy is a fictional creature, fictional character, because no such real life person known as Lucy is existing. It is a figment of poet's imagination. Therefore, Wordsworth invented the name Lucy so that he can base his poetic genius on the name of the poetic person Lucy. But many critics they have believed that Lucy is modeled upon the character of Wordsworth's sister Dorothy Wordsworth. But majority of the Wordsworthian critics they believe that Lucy is basically a figment of the poetic imagination. No real life person known as Lucy was there. The name lucypoems was first suggested by the critic Thomas Powell in the year 1831. Lucy, sometimes we interpret Lucy as poet's muse, sometimes she is interpreted as lost love or poetic imagination or poetic enthusiasm. Now, briefly speaking, if I try to give you a very brief summary of the poem, Strange Feats of Passion I Have Known, this is the first poem of the group where the poet is talking about his strange love feat, where he has expressed that he is in love with a girl named Lucy and he wanted to visit her abode, her small cottage. So one fine moonlit night, the poet wanted to meet her. As a result, he visited her small cottage. But then he, after reaching the spot, he got to realize that Lucy was no more. So this kind of poignant pathos is there. And second poem of the group is She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways. Here, Wordsworth is basically focusing on Lucy's unrecognized beauty, dignity, and her balanced nature, and all the exclusively beautiful attributes of Lucy made her an ideal. So, nature also, Wordsworth gives us references to particular lines where the reference is there. The nature was in love with Lucy because she was so perfect, so ideal, so beautiful. So Lucy here, the name symbolizes in the poem an ideal, short after ideal which is unattainable. The poet or the poetic persona can imagine, can visualize such an ideal, such an eternity, but that kind of eternal dream or eternity or status is unreachable. So it is one kind of idea, one kind of aspect related to Lucy's character. Third poem is I Travelled Among Unknown Men. Here the poet is talking about his lovelorn mood, his sadness, somber situation because his lover Lucy is no more. After his death, entire world seems very heavy to him, and as a result, he wanted to return to London because London was his home long ago, and London was Lucy's home once again. So he wanted to share the physical space where his memories, his medley of memories related to Lucy's love and his emotion for her will again be revived, and it is a creative memoryscape which he would like to cherish. So this reference is there. So here Lucy again, not a person in this poem. Lucy is related to the idea, vivid memory, the memoryscape of love, of emotion, of spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings that made the poet capable of writing powerful poetic lines about love and its languishment. The fourth poem of the group, 3 years she grew in sun and shower. Again, here the focus is on Lucy's untrammeled beauty, quality, and her attribute as the ideal, which can only be imagined, which can only be loved from a distance, but that distance is unbridgeable because the poet is placed in the grounded reality of life, and he is inflicted with the pinpricks of life. And Lucy, being the ideal, being the dream, being the imagination, or being the stasis, she can only be sought after, she can only be imagined by the poetic sensibility and higher poetic aesthetic expression. So once again, Lucy's idea as an ideal, as an abstract poetic muse, again highlighted in this poem. And the fifth and the last poem of the group, A Slumber Did My Spirit Seal. Here the poet is mentioning that after the death of his beloved Lucy, now he is in a very pathetic mood. His mood is very somber. He is filled with negative ideas and he is filled with frustration. Now he only felt like sleeping. Now the slumber, like a deep blanket, has canopied his senses. So this slumber is very suggestive of poetic infertility, sterility, where if we imagine Lucy is supposed to be the poetic muse and the death of Lucy signifies death of his muse, and as a result it signifies the loss of his poetic imagination and creativity, then after Lucy's death, significantly after the loss of his poetic muse, he is unable to create anything. So this kind of slumber is very significant. It symbolizes the poetic inactivity, poetic passivity, poetic infertility, and at the same time it symbolizes the negativity that actually makes poetic craft very difficult one. So once again, in a nutshell, I want to reiterate the fact that Lucy is sometimes believed to be a model of his own sister Dorothy Wordsworth, but many critics don't believe that. They believe Lucy is an ideal or a poetic imagination. And if you read these 5 poems known as Lucy poems very carefully, you will get to understand that Lucy is far from being a real life person. Lucy is an ideal. Lucy is a poetic dream which represents the perfect harmony between man and nature. And Lucy's death, after her death, Lucy has immersed herself within the nature, and all her beauties, all the attributes of Lucy, one can find inside the nature also. So here, the coexistence between man and nature, between ideal and imperfect, between perfection and imperfection, all these things are again seamlessly blended. So once again, these Lucy poems are reiterating the fact that nature is the ideal, nature is the perfect entity, and we humans, we are imperfect and we can only go for this kind of perfection from nature, but this kind of perfection can only be imagined, but it can never be attained by any mortal, by a lesser mortal being, right? So this is all about my small reflection on the Lucy poems. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and please subscribe my channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching. Bye.